A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all the participants and speakers in Canada, and good evening to our participants from Pakistan. I first of all welcome all our worthy panelists and participants of today's webinar on behalf of the Consulate General of Pakistan, Toronto. Today's event is on Pakistan-Canada IT cooperation, connecting the dots. As the name suggests, this interactive session is an attempt to bring together the ITC sectors of the two countries to try to identify the missing links and to suggest the possible steps to be taken. For this, we have invited representations from the government, IT experts, entrepreneurs, academic leaders, and private sector representatives for today's event, so as to understand and analyze the main elements in the ITC landscape of Pakistan and in Canada. We are privileged to have with us highly acclaimed personalities within the Pakistani ITC community in North America, as well as in Pakistan's IT professional network and academia. The event would start with the opening remarks by the Honorable Consul General of Pakistan, Mr. Abdul Hamid. However, before asking him to give his opening remarks, I will have to make a few announcements. As you know, this event will be recorded and will also be available for later viewing by those attendees who are not able to attend today and will be interested in watching this. Secondly, regarding the language, the speakers are at liberty to use either Urdu or English, whatever they feel convenient and appropriate. क्योंकि हमारी जो ज्यादातर ऑडियंस सारी ऑडियंस जो है वो पाकिस्तान ओरिजिन है, तो दे अंडरस्टैंड बोथ Urdu and English. Just to give a brief introduction of the speakers who will be speaking today, we will be listening to Mr. Usman Nasir, who is the Managing Director, Pakistan Software Export Board, and Mr. Barkan Saeed, who is representing Pakistan Software House Association, Mr. Hassan Naqvi, who is President CM Incorporated, is a big name in the software development in Ontario, Dr. Shakil Ahmed Khoja, Dean School of Mathematics and Computer Science, IBA Karachi, which needs no introduction. Mr. Kiwan Khoja, he's the co-CEO of another leading software development company in North America, TechLogix. Mr. Jahan Ali, who is the CEO of Mobile Life, a company specializing in E2E digital experience transformation. Mr. Rahil Qureshi, founder and partner of iSecurity Consulting, a large cybersecurity company, and Mr. Hassan Ramin, managing partner, Go SaaS Incorporated, if I have pronounced it correctly. So, dear participants, let's start. I invite Mr. Honorable Consul General, Mr. Abdul Hamid, to give his opening remarks.
And thank you, Azhar. In fact, I only want to welcome all the panelists for today's webinar on Pakistan-Canada IT cooperation. This consulate has been arranging webinars and virtual events on different important export sectors of Pakistan. Earlier, our webinars focused on exports of textile, leather, and food products. In addition, a very informative session was also organized on e-commerce. As you know better than me, that Pakistani IT companies are exporting to North American market, including Canada, and there are many companies in US and Canada which have back offices in Pakistan. However, there is a feeling shared by people in both countries that Pakistan has the potential to claim a much higher share of the market than it currently enjoys. Some very good news has been coming from Pakistan. There is a rise in investment startups as well as high growth in country's software exports. One of the key objectives of today's event is to enhance understanding of Pakistan's IT sector with respect to its capacity, quality of talent, export profile, and infrastructure. We are very much excited to hear your views. The accumulated experience of IT market and Pakistan and of today's expert in this webinar is huge. And we would like to hear from our distinguished panelists that what are the factors that are hampering the translation of this potential into actual business, and what needs to be done at the operational level to improve it. Although the market status and opportunities would be shared by our panelists from Canada, However, a few statistics are helpful for a basic understanding of the market size and growth of the ICT sector in Canada, because I am based in Toronto these days. The data about US is already known and our companies are familiar with it. There are over 44,000 companies in the Canadian information and communication technology sector, and the large majority, over 40,000, fall within the software and computer services industries. The sector consists mainly of small companies, with approximately 37,600 of them employing fewer than 10 persons. There are only 119 large companies employing over 500 individuals, including subsidiaries of foreign multinational corporations. The ICT sector contributes substantially to Canada's GDP. For example, in 2020, the sector's GDP was around $97 billion, accounting for more than 5% of national GDP. Since 2015, the ICT sector has posted a stronger annual growth than the total economy. On the average, the compound annual growth rate in this sector has been 4.2% over a 5-year period, compared to 0.7% for the overall Canadian economy. The sector is well positioned to benefit from the economy-wide recovery, as demand is expected to reflect accelerating adoption of many technology solutions and private and public investment in digital infrastructure. And the sectors that are witnessing growth of IT services in Canada include banking and financial services, insurance, media and entertainment, communication and technology, consumer goods and retail, healthcare, and there are so many others like automotive, chemicals, hospitality, travel, energy and utilities, transportation and logistics, even oil and gas and education. Now I stop here. We have a panel of distinguished experts. We are looking forward to benefit from their insights on these themes, many other related issues. Before leaving, I must share that we plan to have a follow-up information sharing mechanism. We shall invite panelists and attendees of today's webinar to be part of it. The objective would be to continue to share developments, opportunities in IT market in North America and Pakistan. Thank you. Over to you, Azad.
Thank you, sir. I think we should straight away start with our worthy panelists. We will be joined by Mr. Osman Nasir, Managing Director, Pakistan Software Export Board. Once he joins, we'll be inviting him to talk. But let's start with Mr. Barkan Saeed, who is the CEO of Vistech Solutions, which is a web, mobile, and social apps development company based in Islamabad. Mr. Barkan has more than 13 years of experience in providing solutions and services to startups and enterprises. Mr. Barkan is also the ex-chairman of PASHA, which is the Pakistan Software House Association, the exclusive representative body of the software houses in Pakistan, and member of Prime Minister's Task Force on IT and Telecom. He will be talking about an overall outlook of Pakistan's software industry, its recent achievements, the competitive edge which it enjoys, and what it has to offer to the Canadian market. Over to you, Barkan, sir.
Al-Saab, thank you very much for inviting me, and Abdul Hamid Saab, thank you very much for you and your team for arranging this session. Al-Saab, if you can give me screen sharing access so I can share the presentation.
I think you have, sir. Please check.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So today I will, again, my personal experience, other than I've been 2 times chairman Pakistan Software House Association, I've been part of the Prime Minister's Task Force. And when I was leading PASHA, we were the major force behind the initiatives, the policy for the government to develop the special technology zones, the cash reward scheme, and starting a massive skill training program to train 100,000 professionals in the latest skills. I will also be talking about those programs. I will try to give an overview of what is happening in Pakistan right now in the tech sector, and also talk about what are the initiatives being taken by different departments in Pakistan to further the technology growth in Pakistan. So overall about PASHA, those of you who don't know what PASHA does, PASHA is basically the only official registered trade organization in Pakistan authorized by the Ministry of Commerce in Pakistan for the IT sector. Our primarily our job is to do policy advocacy with the government. We primarily work with Ministry of IT. We recently have started to work with Ministry of Commerce as well. We have around 500 registered members who have been member with us for more than 3 years. Overall, we have 1,000 registered IT companies in Pakistan. Almost all the big players in the IT industry of Pakistan are our members. So some of the numbers at glance, you probably already know about. We have a population, very young population of 220 million. Most of them are under 25 years or under 35 years of age, or more than 66% people. Our IT graduates are around 25 to 30,000 per year. IT graduates we are producing. We are currently in this space working with the government, trying to create programs so we can somehow increase this to 50,000 in next 1 to 2 years. Some other statistics are there which may be useful, but I will move on to other things in the presentation. So this is the presentation. This is the last year number. We had 65% growth last year. We were around $1.1 billion. We grew to around $2.1 billion last year. This year, we are expected to grow to around, on track to achieve around $3.1 billion if things go very well. We may touch $3.5 billion in exports. When I say $3.5 billion, this is Pakistan is generally a country where we just send, where it's mainly salaries are sent and profits mostly are kept abroad in different countries. So the real number may be $4 billion or $4.5 billion. These are the countries we are exporting to primarily. As you can see, US and UAE are primarily one of the biggest markets that Pakistan is exporting to. We are still doing a poor job of exporting to countries like Australia, Europe, China, Malaysia, and Singapore. So this is something that is an opportunity for us as Pakistan to export to these countries as well. One possible reason for these 4 countries is a lot of companies have their front offices in US. So even if they are exporting to other countries, they are primarily driving it through these 4 countries. So this is our service composition. Most of it, we are doing work in almost every area. We have BPOs. We have a very good thriving gaming and animation industry, a good mobile application industry. We are also, there are a lot of companies now doing work in blockchain, data sciences, artificial intelligence, and system integration as well. So Pakistan has been ranked amongst the top 31 economies on global services location index. Last year, we were one of the most, we were in the top 2 countries. We were actually the number 1 in the region for best value for money. I'm not sure that we are still today because it's becoming very, very expensive to hire people. There is a high demand for high-tech resources. Whatever resources you pick, the salaries have gone up 40-50% in almost every technology, and it is almost impossible to find. Becoming impossible to find people in high-end technology areas because everybody is after the resources because there's a huge global crunch that is going on there. This is the ease of business ranking. We did go better in the ease of business ranking as well. One of the things that we did in this IT sector specifically was that this year, the Prime Minister last year started the special technology zone on request from Pasha. And what the special technology zone is going to do is that it is going to increase the benefit for the IT sector a lot. So basically what's going to happen is that in these zones, the government departments will be barred from entering into the zone without the approval of the authorities. There will be local and international income tax exemptions. There will be no custom duties on the equipment that is imported. And because generally the companies feel that, okay, when imports are done for IT companies, they get stuck at the ports. In the zones, that is going to be improved. There's going to be national window for all the companies in the special technology zone. So apart from that, the developers are also going to get income tax exemption and dividends. So a lot of benefits combined into the zone, which already have been launched by the Prime Minister this year. So that will also improve the ease of doing business in Pakistan. Again, I talked about the special technology zones. Some of the benefits which have been recently been approved, not part of my presentation, is those companies who are setting up in Pakistan, they're going to get cash reward from the government. So by cash reward, I mean every country who's exporting, for every company which is, for example, exporting $100,000 from Pakistan, they're going to get 5% cash reward, depending on how much their growth is. It's linked to the growth only if they show growth. But if they show growth, the government will give them $5,000 from its own pocket to the companies to the benefit. So those companies who have captive offices in Pakistan or the companies based in Pakistan, they will be getting an additional benefit. Furthermore, Pakistan Software Export Board. I hope Usman will be here in a while as well. He can talk about that. But overall, Pasha has requested the government departments to, because there's a huge skill demand in the market. The industry has requested all the government departments like Pakistan Software Export Board, Ignite. I'm myself the advisor to the Science and Technology Minister Atif Khan of KPK. We have requested to do the same in KPK, that we started spending heavily on skill training program of our youth. In this initiative, PSCB this year is starting boot camp for 5 technologies identified by Pasha for 4,000 students. And that's going to be open for all electrical, mechanical, civil engineer, and even the computer science students. Then other programs are in progress to go into the universities and teach the industry professionals, go into the universities and even get like $50 an hour to teach in the university. So they are incentivized and to go and teach and train in the university. Similarly, KP government is launching a 5 billion rupee program to train youth. Their target is 25,000 students through hybrid, blended, different forms of physical training programs to teach 25,000 or basically reskill some of the students in the KPK. So a lot of work actually going on in KPK. And last but not the least, that there is a huge effort in Pakistan to brand Pakistan as a tech destination, because if you see Pakistan, it is missing in McKinsey, Gartner. So this year, on request of Pasha, PSCB is initiating a study of the IT industry, which is going to be done by one of the top 4, I think it's EY or PwC. One of these companies is going to do, it's PwC, which is going to do the study of Pakistan. And then there are a lot of other initiatives where there will be a huge outreach campaign from Pakistan to place Pakistan in the tech journals, in the studies, in McKinsey's and Gartner's, all these reports. So a lot of work is being done overall by the Pakistan Software Export Board as well to brand Pakistan as a tech destination. So these are some of the success stories. I'm sure most of you who know Pakistan know these names like Affinity, NetSol, CureMD, Quixel Pakistan. It was recently acquired by one of the big gaming companies in the world. So Contour Pakistan is a Canadian company. They have more than 1,500 people in Pakistan. A big success story to come out from Pakistan. Everybody in the industry knows about Systems Limited. S&P Global Pakistan has one of the largest centers in Pakistan. One of their high-end centers based out of Pakistan have more than 1,000 employees. So a lot of growth overall in the industry. Every company that is there in my network at this time is growing, and small companies are going big. So basically, right now, getting work is not. My last point is that getting work at this time in Pakistan is not a challenge. It's getting the work. It's the people. It's the skills that is becoming a challenge. But the good thing that the opportunity is still there, because there are at least 100,000 people in Pakistan who can be trained every year and reskilled into IT. So that is the opportunity that is there right now in Pakistan, and I would like to focus on that as an opportunity. I'm sure everybody who's working in Pakistan would be familiar with the problem, but still, because of these resources that we can train and go to the market, I think this is a huge opportunity for Pakistan to utilize that and bring our workers to Pakistan. Again, everybody knows these are old numbers. Right now, we have crossed around in the startup sector. We have crossed around $300 million plus in the startup funding space at this time. So a lot of things are happening in the startup sector as well. That is it from my end. If anybody would like to have any questions about what is going on in the government sector, I would be happy to answer. One of the things that the counselor requested me was that the question on how we can build the bridges between Pakistan and Canada. So one of the things that we Pasha or we initiated was with Open, where we basically asked the Open, one of the Washington chapters, Open chapters, to start bringing people to Pakistan. So every year, a lot of people from initially few people came. Now a big delegation came from Washington, and a lot of work has started to happening. They visited all over Pakistan. We helped them meet all the government people in Pakistan, the Ministry of IT, Ministry of Commerce, Special Technology Zone. So one of the things that I think we can do, or the people on your side can take this initiative, that they can start to bring delegations to Pakistan and vice versa, so that the bridges can be built. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Barkan sir, for a very informative and comprehensive coverage of Pakistani IT landscape. Now we move on to our next speaker, Mr. Hassan Naqvi, who has over 30 years of experience in the business and information technology and communications field. He is currently president of CM Incorporated, a leading ITC company. Mr. Hassan's focus has been on nurturing and promoting emerging technologies such as internet-enabled computing, e-business, 3D, and big data solutions. I would now request Mr. Hassan Naqvi to share his views based on his vast experience on how Pakistani IT companies can better compete for ITC outsourcing with other countries in Canada. Over to you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this session. I'm actually one of those people who've been in Canada longer than I've been in Pakistan, about 45 years. So excuse me for my bit of a bias towards what I know more about this place than about my native country. However, when we look at the ability of Pakistanis in general, I think we are among the best in the world. And I say that with my personal experience and what our entrepreneurs, professionals, and other people in other spheres have done globally, whether it is North America or any other part of the world. The challenge that we face is that we've got a country with a superb potential and the best of people that you can find anywhere. But a major issue in all spheres is perception. Perception is just what people think about us for reasons that we can, in my mind, we can fix. And at this point in time, I think we are on that path. And I have overall information about saying that the Britishers left something very, very good to us, which was the medium of a language that is accepted worldwide and is spoken globally, and that's English. And we happen to be the third largest English-speaking nation in the world. That's the number that I have. We have a young workforce. We have good laws. For one of the challenges we face is intellectual property. When we build software, we want that to be protected, and those laws in Pakistan. So there's a lot of good things that the country has to offer. But unfortunately, our PR and our projection is such that there's resistance especially from the West, on giving us fair opportunities to compete openly in the global field. Price-wise, we are basically one of the best. Value-wise, we are good, but there's a challenge of credibility. Those things are basically have to do with some due diligence that we need to do to make sure that when we are giving out business, or whether it's outsourcing or any other such thing, you give more value back. And some of it has to do with social media that's out there. Some of it has to do with the global players. But my feeling is that if we can perform, and we are showing that, the numbers are showing that, that Pakistan is going to be and is still becoming a go-to country for solutions, especially in the technology field. Technology that I look at it's a double-edged sword. It's a disruptor and an enabler at the same time. And from our side, we have an advantage because what it's doing is it's disrupting globally, especially people like, I would call myself in that category, because if you look at Canada, we have an aging population. We need a lot of support in terms of immigration and all. And a country like Pakistan can provide the youth that is needed globally. And happy to say that even in this country, the professionals in IT from Pakistan are among the best. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience. Now, what do we do to mitigate and position ourselves so that we have a fair chance in the marketplace? I think it has to do with perceptions. I think it has to do with image. I think it has to do with social media engagement. And also for some of us to know where the channels are, where we can position ourselves so that we get the right exposure. For example, we talk about PwC, that is a superb move. There are companies on Gartner and such areas where they say, okay, where are you positioned? And what we find that Pakistanis have created some of the cutting edge technology firms globally, like we deal with one set up by Mr. Shoaib, which is Informatica. No other company can beat it. But in the end, we have to try to keep it within the boundaries of calling those Pakistani companies rather than, being taken up by other folks. From my side, I think the major issue is perceptions. And if we can come up with a strategy, and one way to do it is to combine it with some other industry. For instance, tourism. Tourism of Pakistan suffers the same issue that technology does. But once people see it, once people go to that country and visit and look at the beautiful land, they want to go back and back again. The same is with technology. If they have a good experience with a company, whether it's to do with outsourcing or whether it has to do with bringing people insourcing, bringing people from outside, they find out the abilities of the nation. However, again, I come back to say that within our own country also, I'll use Qaid Azam's vision of saying that we do not put ourselves into a silo and we work at the level of, not saying that we belong to any one space, but we are a global people, which we are actually in essence. So I think the hope for that country is great. I think the numbers that Mr. Barkan gave are very impressive. And I'm sure that down the road, we will continue to progress and will be acknowledged as one of the leaders in the IT space. Thank you.
Thank you, Naqvi Sahab, for your sharing your experience and your views of how to basically improve Pakistan. Now I invite Dr. Shakil Ahmed Khoja, who is the Dean of School of Mathematics and Computer Science at Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Dr. Shakil has a PhD in computer science from University of Southampton, and he has also been a research fellow in this university for about 2 years. We would request Dr. Saab to share his views on the current and future direction of IT education in Pakistan, with focus on the skill set being imparted to the students and learning them for the international markets. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Aziz Saab, His Excellency Abdul Hamid Khan Saab, and all the esteemed guests. Assalamu alaikum. I'll start with some figures that if we look at Pakistan, we have got around 320 universities, and out of which almost every university is offering a program in computer science, whether it's a medical school or even an engineering school. Almost some form of IT or computer science program is available. So you can say that around 200 to 300 programs are available, producing around 25 to 30,000 graduates every year. So this is the number of students which are coming from, a 4 years of education. However, the paradox is that quality is a challenge here. We can discuss that some of the universities might be producing very good graduates, but majority of the universities face the challenge of quality. Now, what to do about this? We need to go and understand the basics of the university education first. That apart from, making a better citizen, the job of a university is to produce potential amongst its students to learn something new for the rest of his or her life. So, in a way, what I'm suggesting that we try to produce lifelong learners from a university, focusing mostly on skills and academic curriculum. Now, the skills are mostly about soft skills, which include presentation skills, communication, and teamwork skills, whereas the technical skills mostly comprise of vocation and awareness of the state-of-the-art technology. The degree programs, they have core courses, applied courses. The core goes towards, developing the basics of a student, whereas the applied courses are mostly towards skill development. And over the time, these applied courses change a lot. Like, for example, just 5 years ago, at IBA, we used to teach topics like parallel computing, distributed computing. Today, we are teaching, topics on cloud computing, security on cloud computing as such. So the applied courses are usually the industry driven. What are the new trends in industry? And the academia tries to produce the potential for that industry. Having said that, I would say that the picture is not rosy, that every university is doing, the best of it. We need huge investments in development of high qualified faculty, which is a serious challenge. Our academic systems are a little bit weak as compared to the rest of the world. We all know that. However, we are catching up. Like, for example, the Higher Education Commission is investing heavily on latest systems and things like that. The Pakistan Engineering Council, the Computer Council, they have signed agreements with like Seoul Accord or Washington Accord, so that if a university is accredited from the Pakistan Engineering Council or National Computing Council, the graduates are accepted globally, including Canada. So these are the things that have been done, but still our academic systems lack that finesse and rigor, which is norm to a normal American university. Students tend to take shortcuts. We all know that, and we provide these gaps. So these are available. Going towards the industry, when we look towards the gap, what we find out that the universities are always looking at the academia towards getting a sort of a quick fix. Like, for example, there is a big gap between the expectations and the actual product that we are developing. However, the good news is that this particular gap is shrinking day by day, and the universities are catching up, as well as the industry is developing that potential to absorb this type of the type of graduates that we are producing. Then comes the role of mentoring. Previously, we used to have internships, corporate meetups, and lots of things. But in the last 2 years, because of COVID, we are more focusing on online education. That may, for the short period of time, hamper the quality of graduates. But at the same time, it provides new opportunities where we see that our students are going. And the disruption of IT companies, the way that they go, they change the work and the type of sort of like the style that it changes. It is basically what happens that the universities lag a little bit to catch up those things. What I mean to say is that here, like all those new technologies, it takes a little bit of time for the university to understand. However, having said that, the potential, the basics that we develop, again, going back to my basic point where we're saying that we develop the potential of a student to learn anything or to learn anything new is something that we should be working on, and that's where we are working. When we talk about Canada, a number of universities in Pakistan have developed academic linkages with top Canadian universities like University of Toronto, University of Waterloo, Ryerson, and others, and we are working towards that. But what I believe and what I see that the more graduates we are producing, the more they are consumed. Like just to give you this example, at IBA Karachi, even we are unable to find teaching assistants because all of our CS graduates are working somewhere in industry, even during their studentship. So I will end by saying that though we are struggling, but still the type of graduates we produce, the students that are coming up from these universities, they are, you know, the they are available, they have the potential to work for any Pakistani or any American or Canadian company, and they are getting the right type of work that they are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakil, for your enlightening and informative talk. Now we have been joined by Mr. Osman Nasir from Pakistan Software Export Board. Mr. Osman Nasir has an MBA degree in International Business and Trade Economics from Cardiff University. As we all know, PSEB is the apex organization responsible for promoting and increasing exports of technology products and services globally. Mr. Osman Nasir has been leading this organization since August 2020. He has also the privilege of drafting Pakistan's first strategy document, targeting $10 billion export by 2023.
Gee, if I may speak, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Sir, we can hear you, but आपके background में कुछ शोर आ रहा है.
Now the problem is, it turned out it's my son's birthday, and I am on very thin ice with my wife. So I'll keep it short, and I'll keep it informative. I hope the noise in the background subsides. Now, thank you very much, Consul Chairman. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for giving us this opportunity. Just wanted to introduce you. Mr. Barkan Saeed has mostly discussed about all the initiatives that PSEB and PASH has been taken together. However, a few things. So Barkan's been discussing. Sorry, I'm now in the car. So Barkan's now been discussing about the HR element, and well covered, Barkan. Thank you very much. And some of the marketing initiatives that we are taking. But on the supply side, as per the strategy that we have devised, and this strategy has gone to the industry for 30 different iterations. So the 30th iteration that we have devised. So on the supply side, we are doing a few more things. Other than the HR initiatives, we have the infrastructure initiatives. Now, these infrastructure initiatives where we are turning the existing and the defunct buildings into software technology parks across the country. And we are specifically targeting the second tier and the third tier cities. So these are the Sialkots and the Gujranwalas and the Loralais and the Huzdars and Sakkars. And the idea is that wherever we can use a underutilized, unutilized government building or a disused factory, convert that into a software technology park. We've already done 10 edition of those, and we're now right now working on 8 more. By the time, inshallah, by August, we'll have somewhere around 30 of these installations across the country. So I would urge you to go and check out on YouTube the Gilgit Software Technology Park. So other than that, we are also working on multiple very large scale software technology parks and IT parks. and these are in Karachi and Lahore, and there's a recent Karachi and Islamabad, and there's a recent one in Pindi at the old Pindi airport. So the old Rawalpindi airport, the Chaklala base, is going to be converted into a complete software technology park very, very soon. The other important things that we are doing are on the these are on the access to capital, ease of doing business, and cost of doing business. So we are working continuously on the ease of doing business and cost of doing business. We are working continuously with the State Bank, with FBR, and with the SECP and all the other major organizations in the country, BOI. And these things range from stuff like changing the definition of IT and IT-enabled services for the taxation. These things involve working with FBR to reduce the tax disputes, with State Bank of Pakistan to ease the access to capital through the commercial banks, or to send out any foreign exchange from Pakistan. On the access to capital front, we have another project unfolding. It's already been implemented, and that is where we are bringing IT companies onto stock exchange. So we are funding their listing onto stock exchange. PSEB is doing that. So 40 of the IT companies, initial IT companies, we are bringing them to stock exchange, so that the financial market gets to understand about the software industry. Once that information gets public, it will be easier for the banks and the financial organizations to understand our business cycles, our ref cycles, our ratios, and that can become a litmus test for others. On the demand side, the few things that we are doing where our fellow Pakistanis in Canada can help. Number one is our program called Tech Leads. And Tech Leads program is about any Pakistanis living abroad. If they want, they can become the business development partners with multiple IT companies. And these they can list their profile. The IT companies can look them up, and then they can have a conversation. And we are now converting that into a two-way conversation, where the tech leads can also communicate with the IT companies, can initiate the conversation with the IT companies, and they can send their interest. And they can have, one person can have multiple IT companies becoming their partners, and they can be closing a sale, and on the sales they can make sales commission. So, and then we are converting the PSEB website in about 3 to 4 days time. You'll be able to see the PSEB website's been converted into techdestination.com. And the techdestination.com is our business-to-business matching platform. It's our platform for listing the company's information. It's our platform for booking events. It will be our platform for news information. So it will be a complete portal, and we'll be linking it with the National Professional Networking Portal that we have. And that National Professional Networking Portal is going to list the professionals of the country. That will be linked to the pages, the Wikipedia pages of the companies on techdestination.com. So you can see exactly how many people a company has actually, and what are their strengths, what projects that they have done, where they have done those projects, what was their largest project if they want to reveal that. So all of this information will be available. Plus, we are going on a massive global sort of outreach program where we'll be working on outdoor ads. So you'll be able to see us very soon, inshallah, on the Times Square screen, you will be able to see Pakistani ad on the Piccadilly Circus billboards, and your airport departure lounges. Plus, we are also working on a global news channel, TV news advertising campaign. So, and plus, Barkan has mentioned a lot of reports that we are doing. You can go to techdestination.com right now. There's a microsite hosted until the big platforms coming in the next 3-4 days. And you can access the microsite. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of collateral that we have listed there. You can see reports, micro reports about each segment of the industry. There are 15 segments of the industry that we have already covered. So you can check that out too. Plus, you can go and check out techdestination.com's YouTube channel. And, we put up a lot of information, a lot of documentaries, a lot of question answer sessions. That's what we do there. Plus, I hope by July, we'll be going to 3 more events. So we are now going to Leap a day after tomorrow. There'll be roughly 40 Pakistani companies that we are taking to Leap in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Then we are going to MWC Barcelona, and I hope another 20, 30 odd companies, Pakistani companies, will join us there. We fund these companies to go to these events with us. Then hopefully we'll be in GDC in San Francisco, and there is Collision Canada has also been planned. I hope that we can take the companies there as well. So I hope you'll be able to see that there's a holistic plan. There's HR, there's infrastructure, there's ease and cost of doing business, there's access to capital, there's marketing, branding, business development. And the good news is, people often used to ask me, how are you going to do all this? Because PSEB been a very traditional organization. So what we have done after we have gotten the strategy formalized by the board of directors, what we have done, we have restructured Pakistan Software Export Board to actually mirror the strategy. So there are departments created to carry out all of the tasks, each of the tasks of that particular strategy. There's C-level employees who are joining us from next month, who will be leading those departments. So we are there. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of buzz, and Pasha has always been our great partner in all of this. A lot of support from Ministry of IT, a lot of support from BOI, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Trade Development Authority of Pakistan. So all of us are working hand in hand together. We are bringing in other partners, like we are bringing in State Life to become our partner to offer subsidized insurances to the industry members. We are bringing in Pakistan Exim Bank to fund the export of software in tricky situations. So I hope today this is all the good news that I can give you, and I hope that is enough. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, Usman Nasir Saab, for your presentation, and a lot of good news coming from Pakistan. Hopefully, these will all translate into more and more business from international markets to Pakistan. Now we move on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Kevan Khwaja, who is a co-founder and co-CEO of TechLogix, a global IT services, consulting, and business solutions company. Mr. Kevan's interests are focused around business process management, business intelligence, and alignment of enterprise IT initiatives with corporate strategy. He also holds a master's degree in information systems from MIT. So over to you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah.
So given the fact that so much has already been talked about, both on the demand side as well as on the supply side, I was listening to Mr. Usman's initiatives with great interest, because our own story started with way back in 1995. In November 1995, the very first delegation of Pakistan's IT companies, there were 8 of them, was taken by the Pakistan, the newly formed Pakistan Software Export Board, and we went to Comdex, the biggest event in the U.S. in Las Vegas, and that is the beginning of the 2 or 3 companies that broke into the software export market. Prior to 1995, there was only one other company from Pakistan, which doesn't exist today, but in those days it was a very large company set up by the Crescent Group, the textile group of Pakistan, and the company's name was Crestsoft. They were the pioneers who had broken into the American market in 1993. So we followed with a bunch of 3 or 4 companies in early 1996. So one of my recommendations would be, as Mr. Usman Nasser mentioned, that we need to have more Pakistani software company delegations to Canada. Now, I myself have been part of a couple of delegations in the past to Canada, but more on those trips, my feeling was that most of our interaction was happening with the government representatives of the Canadian, let's say around the city of Toronto, or I went to Montreal once. So my recommendation would be that if the consulate or other Pakistani individuals are interested in increasing exports, if more and more events could be identified in Canada, some of those could be funded by the Pakistan Software Export Board, but many others could just be funded by companies who can collaborate together, and private initiatives could be taken. And the reason I'm saying that is that in the US, there are now a lot of companies who are large enough that they do not need any Pakistan Software Export Board money. Our company, for example, we participate in about a dozen events in the US, which are very specific to the kind of work that we do. We don't need any government support, so we do that privately from our own resources. On the Canadian side, however, what can happen is that perhaps somebody can compile what those specialized events are. The interaction around technology over the last 25 years has also changed. Today, you will not find an event like Comdex. It will be far and it'll be few and far, between whether you can find an event like that. Now the events are more structured around specialized topics like artificial intelligence, like cloud computing. So my view is that if we can compile a list of those events, which are both in person and in digital form. Since COVID, I have only participated in one big event in the US in person, but I participated in about half a dozen digital events. And these are perhaps the best forum now for us now to capture attention of the marketplace, because the buyer is not interested today in entertaining salespeople who try to wine and dine them, which was the mode of selling into larger organizations 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Today, the buyer is interested in buying at their own time when they are interested in looking for specific vendors who can provide. So that traditional selling model, I believe, doesn't hold true anymore. It doesn't hold true for our company. We try to get work by taking up speaking slots at various events. So my view is that increasingly Pakistani companies or their founders or their CEOs need to speak at events, not just participate at these events. If I go to a typical event in the US, there might be, 30% of the speakers are Indian. And when I find a Pakistani speaker, I usually go and hug them because there are so few of them speaking at events in the US. So in a competitive marketplace where there are companies not only from India, there are companies now coming from various Eastern European countries, from Mexico. They're all competing for work. And many of them are now heading to Canada also, because the Canadian IT sector has also exploded in a big way. So my view is we should take more active role in participating in these specialized events where people are coming looking for expertise, and we should try to stand out from competition by taking up speaking slots and being presenters at conferences rather than just idle participants. Okay, so that's one way I think on the demand side we can increase the participation of the Pakistani diaspora as well as Pakistani companies who want to come here and get work. The other recommendation I think is that on the supply side, as you know, very briefly, the Pakistani, at least the software part of the IT sector is basically three chunks. One is obviously the software export part, where we hire resources in Pakistan who are developing software for the US or Middle Eastern countries or other countries. The other sector is the domestic IT, people who are servicing domestic companies, enterprises in Pakistan. And the third sector, which has exploded is now being funded by the venture capital money, is the sector where businesses are being launched in Pakistan, which are predicated on technology. Okay. Now, all three of them, as it happens, we know that they are exploding and the demand is so high that in our own company, our salaries are going up at a 30% year-on-year increases in rupee terms. Okay. But one of the things that I've noticed, which is very perturbing, is that the leading universities, so for example, in our company, we hire from a total of about a dozen universities, but the bulk of our workforce comes from 6 universities, and I can name them. 3 of them are from the private sector, which are LUMS, UET Lahore, and the third private university is the IBA Karachi. Okay, and on the government sector, there are 3 universities like NUST, GIK, and FAST, which has, the UIT is FAST is a private one, or I misnamed it. UET is a government sector university, but the government one are NUST, GIK, and UET. Now, if you look at the budgets of these universities, just to give you some numbers, these are shockingly low. The budget of UET Lahore is no more than $5 or $6 million. When I visited in 2004, I visited as part of a delegation taken by the IT ministry to China. We went to the Beijing University, and their budget, the annual budget in 2004 was $200 million. So if you're talking of increasing our exports by so many $1 billion in the next few years, and our universities, the key universities, the top 6 universities in Pakistan have budgets of a few $1 million, which is less than a third of a typical commercial building that is set up on the main boulevard Lahore or on Sharai Faisal in Karachi. That is a big mismatch. So we need to make a pitch to the government that at least in the public sector universities, the budgets have to go significantly up. If you take a look at the typical salary of, let's say, a graduate who has worked in the software export industry for 5 years, their salary is now touching 300,000 rupees. Now, that is a salary of a professor who has been teaching kids like that for 20 years or 10 years, or whatever. So the point is, we need to, if we need to invest in the right places, and the right places are the top 6, 7, 8, 10 universities of Pakistan. Their budgets have to be blown up. They have to go up not by a factor of 2, they have to go up with a factor of 5 or 6 times. The Beijing University budget that I mentioned, which was $200 million in 2004, has crossed $1 billion per annum, which is comparable to the budgets of not the very top universities in America, but the second tier in the US. So I think these are some of on the demand side. Unless we really invest in universities and in those particular colleges which feed up to the universities also, you just can't blow up the budgets of universities and not take a look at the feeding colleges. So if the intake is increased on the university side, without investments also in subsidiary colleges which feed to these universities, you will have a quality problem still, because the intake quality will go down, the average intake quality. So see, these are some of the things that quickly come to mind, and I'll be happy to take any questions and I'd like to other participants to, since we are running short on time, I'll let other people speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Kivan for sharing very excellent points and plenty of material for the policy makers in Pakistan. Now we move on to next speaker, Mr. Jahan Ali, who is the CEO of Mobile Life, a full-service development company specializing in B2B digital experience transformation. The company has delivered native hybrid mobile applications, sponsored web, e-commerce enablement, and cloud-based services to Canada's largest brands, including tier one carriers, OEMs, and global network service providers. Mr. Jahan Ali has a master's degree in mobile communications from University of Toronto, and we would request him to enlighten us with the ICT landscape in Canada, the technology trends in the coming years, and what challenges he faced while working with the software houses in Pakistan and elsewhere. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I know we are running short in time, so I'll go very quick. Yeah, I think most of the people know me from as a CEO, founder of Mobile Life, but not many people know that I have now 2 more startup companies, and I also acquired a software house in Pakistan. I think that is why it makes it even more relevant based on my experiences over past 10, 15 years. I've been running my companies. So let me go and a bit deeper into Canadian ICT landscape. Mr. Abdul Hamid Saab has already touched on it, but I just want to repeat very few things so that we can somehow map those statistics to where the opportunities are. So size of Canadian ICT industry is about 230 billion in revenue. And there are, at high level, there are 4 sectors. Software and computer systems is the largest one. Second largest is communication systems, then ICT wholesaling, and then ICT manufacturing. And as he mentioned that there are 44,000 ICT companies in Canada. But the most important thing to note here is that 91% of them are from software and computer systems subsector, which is a key point. And then after 91%, then only 3% are from communication systems. And those 91% of software computer systems subsector, they're contributing to 41% of the total ICT spend. So this is one area where there could be a lot of collaboration or focus between Pakistan and Canada. And then the other sector, 3%, which is the communication system subsector, that is making about 30% of the total spend. So that means that we are talking about 30 plus 40, about 70% is from these 2 sectors. So which is an important point to note. Let's look into the market players. Again, let's go back to 44,000 companies. From the size perspective, 85% of the companies are only 1 to 9 employees. And only 1.6% of the companies are more than 100 employees. So from here, what is the message? That there is a big SMB market that can be tapped and because their main problem is cost effectiveness. And if their main problem is cost effectiveness, then they become very, I would say, favorable for whole offshoring, outsourcing piece, where again, Pakistani companies can play a lot of role. Less bureaucracy, less red tapes. 85% of the companies are, actually 90% are, if I look at it, between less than 50 employees. So there is a huge opportunity there. So let's look into now what kind of those opportunities are. At high level, if I have to divide those opportunities, especially from the consulting perspective or the services perspective where I play role in, is that either it is improving customer digital experience or modernizing technology infrastructure or automation. These are the 3 focus areas which I have seen over and over again. Now, in these areas, if I go one level down, the first area is experience design, but companies in Canada tend to keep the experience design part within themselves because it has a lot of cultural aspect, understanding the user, local market. But when it comes to the designing a software development of that experience, that's where they want to offshore to Asia, India, Pakistan, East Europe. So that is an area that should be very much looked into. And in that area, the whole software development piece, technology stack, front-end development, back-end development comes in. So I'm sorry, I'm going a bit lower detail because a lot of good ideas have been shared and that they are all valid, but I thought let's now give a different dimension to the information that we are sharing. And then obviously cloud enablement, AI, AR, VR, blockchain, IoT, cloud, robotics. These are the areas where it is almost impossible these days to find talent in Canada. And most of the companies are looking outside Canada. And that is where, again, Pakistan can play a big, big role. There is so much demand, but there is no supply. And then I know that there are so many good companies currently in Pakistan that are focusing in these areas. So I think these are the areas that should be of great interest. Now let's talk about some good things and some challenges. If I talk about good things, I have tried many different geographical locations from offshoring, outsourcing perspective. But I have definitely found one of the best talent in Pakistan, no doubt about it. And I have shared this with few people before. One gentleman mentioned about MWC. So I obviously go MWC every year. Before COVID, when I went to MWC, there is a new section that they have. It's called 4 years from now, means 4 years in future. And startups from all over the world attend that section. They have booths there. And I think at that time, 10 to 12 companies were from Pakistan. And I spent 2 days there. And I can tell that no company had better technology and the presentation than Pakistani companies around the world. So from that perspective, we have the talent. Younger generation is so passionate. They want to do something. So this is really, really good. But there are some challenges also. And those challenges I would want to highlight, and I hope everybody takes them constructively. The first thing which Hassan Saab mentioned is perception. Major, major, major challenge. And FATF rating, Pakistan being in the gray list, has hindered my growth big time. I deal with financial sector a lot, and they just do not want to work with Pakistan because of FATF rating. And when I acquired a company, I could have grown, literally gone through an exponential growth, but that hindered. So I hope that at the political level, at the government level, this thing, they are taking it really, really seriously. The other thing is obviously because of the perception, because of other things, the intercompany transfer, ICTs, like when we are working Canadian companies, we may have to bring few people from Pakistan to Canada and then back and forth. The whole immigration piece taking forever for the security back check. It just does not work. So I am really trying to give you guys the real challenges on the ground, which should be definitely looked into. The other thing which I really, really want to mention, again, I hope everything takes it consecutively. I have found still there is a lot of improvement, opportunity of improvement from ethics perspective. Like outsourcing just does not work if you do not, or you cannot trust people over there. And that is why I acquired the company there, because I was having those issues. I said, I want to acquire a company, I will have a control of that company. And when we talk about ethics, it's not something like rocket science. It's just the simple moral principles that govern behavior, right? So honesty, respect, integrity, diversity, fairness, some very fundamental things. What I want to give one message is, I have seen over and over again the curriculum, technology, soft skills, but somehow I have not heard a lot that code of conduct, ethics in technology is the mandatory course in universities that teach all those fundamental principles that will elevate the way our people behave over there. And they simple things like we have to teach them not to cut corners to get the task done. people may not even realize that it's an ethical issue, but it is an ethical issue. So companies will show you different people. When the work comes, different people work on it. So all those minor things create that perception, and that perception actually goes long way. So I hope that in universities, they'll really make a business code of conduct as one of the fundamental, or the core mandatory course. Other than that, any questions I would be happy to take. And I'm sorry for hitting a bit of pain points, but those things are, in my view, are really hurting us or hindering our expansion here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jahangir Saab. We really appreciate your candid comments. Certainly, if we are able to identify the problems and weaknesses, then only we can obviously find a solution for that. Now we move on to our next speaker, Mr. Rahil Qureshi, who is a co-founder and partner iSecurity Consulting. Mr. Rahil has over 15 years of experience helping organizations excel in the areas of cybersecurity, privacy, architecture, and risk management. Mr. Rahil has a computer engineering degree from Ryerson University. He would talk about the major surge in talent demand in technology, data analytics, and cloud, how there is a change in the local positions to global positions, and the emerging trends in technology for metaverse. Over to you, sir. Mr. Marwan is not there. I think Mr. Rahil Qureshi is not presently online. So we move on to next speaker, Mr. Hassan Rame, who is the managing partner of Go SaaS Incorporated. Mr. Hassan has an MBA degree from MIT, Sloan School of Management. Mr. Hassan is requested to share some tactical advice for Pakistani companies to get business from Canada, and what actions should what the Canadians of Pakistani origin can take to help the Pakistan IT industry. Over to you, Hassan sir.
Thanks, Mr. Azhar. So a couple of areas, I think just a very informative session for me. But just quick background, I've been working with offshoring in India for about 21 years, Pakistan for about 15 years, primarily from the US, but heavily involved in working with both countries, setting up teams in various capacities, larger companies and smaller companies. So I think a couple of key differences, and I've been recently hiring, we have a large team in Lahore, but I've been recently trying to hire in India as well. And the key thing that I just wanted to, I think, bring to everyone's attention is there is a significant salary difference. So Pakistan is about, I want to say 30 to 50% cheaper than India, when you are talking about under 5 years of experience people, right? So if you're hiring fresh grads, computer science, much more cost effective. As soon as you go above 5 years, there aren't people in Pakistan with more than, let's say, 10 years of experience. I mean, there are people, but they either own their own companies, and because there are like 1,000 small companies, it's just unable to hire people with more experience. And I think then I started looking into that. Like, why is that? One of the reasons is, we have a lot of people that go out of the country. The other is, I think some of the efforts by the government, or I'm not sure exactly why, but there's a huge effort in encouraging the freelance industry, right? So anyone with like 5 years of experience opens a little shop, has 3 people, and is making, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000 a month, having a really good lifestyle. But I think if I look at it for an industry to mature as a whole, we don't have companies with 100,000 employees, 50,000 employees. I think the largest one I believe is Systems with 3,500 or so employees. So I think we need to start, and I think my request would be for PSEP, Pasha, and organizations like that to start thinking and encouraging people in that direction, that it's okay to be an employee. And I think we need our organizations to scale the systems, the technologics. I mean, they need to scale up. So I think that would be one point of view. I think the other point of view is that we, the key difference between Indian IT and Pakistani IT is, when I look at Pakistani IT, we get like it's essentially all computer science graduates, right? So we're looking at computer science graduates who then we train, and then and my background comes from enterprise IT and not really from really gaming or any other thing. But we get computer science people, and then we get them to implement an SAP ERP or financial package or something, right? And that's like the most expensive resource that we have, a GIK graduate or something, and then we're trying to train them to do something which is probably trivial. So I think it's important for us as an industry to get non-computer science people who cannot code, and I think that's how at least we put it internally. And Go SaaS, what we've started doing that last couple of years, where we're going out to civil engineers, and we work in manufacturing a lot and product lifecycle management. So we're working with mechanical engineering people. So I mean, at least more than half of our graduates were going outside of the typical computer science EE graduates. But we're tiny, and so I think that's one of the key things when I look at Indian. I mean, I've done like probably 100 interviews in the last few months. I don't think I interviewed one person who was from IIT or anywhere, because we're just doing it for IT, some Oracle skill or something skill. But when I talk to people in Pakistan or IIT, or even their third-tier computer science universities, Madras University or something, I don't find them doing these types of things. They're all working in Microsoft Research Center in India or something, creating the next machine learning algorithms. But when I look at Pakistan, we find GIK graduates working on, integrations between some banking system and something else, which can be done by a far less expensively trained, right? Because these are people that the country has trained. So I think that would be one thought. I think my one tactical comment on the Pakistani companies trying to get business from Canada or North America in general would be to specialize. I think the everyone that I see, at least from my narrow sample size, is everybody throws in these horizontal buzzwords, right? Blockchain, AI, this, that. These are these are good if you're targeting companies that need, I think Mr. Jahan mentioned, if you're targeting companies that have a presence in Canada. But if you're looking for an end customer to work with you, and you're really trying to build a big business, I think you really need to specialize, and I think it's very important for us to specialize, and I think that's where we don't have people specializing just in banking IT. We don't have like 20 companies doing that in Pakistan and focused around it, or manufacturing IT, or consumer packaged goods or pharmaceuticals, or just so vertical specialization or a domain specialization, right? I mean, there's a specific supply chain planning problem that we solve, and this is like 50 companies that do it in Pakistan. We unfortunately do not have that. So I think specialization, and I think that allows, there are a few companies who do that, and I think that allows you to train those people that are non-computer science people into, okay, this is all we're training them on, versus a very broad charter that, okay, here's everything that you need to know. So I think that would be my suggestion or request, that focus on telecom, right? So if you get Roger Wireless as a customer, then you get TELUS as a customer. Well, for Bell Canada, you're an industry expert, right? You're much more valuable. So at least, even if you're doing generic stuff, just focus on few targeted industries and collect logos from an industry. That would be, I think, the biggest thing that we can do as an industry to have those sort of focused sectors, because we have a big supply problem, right? So we need to move higher in the value chain. We cannot be doing $2,000 a month type export per person. We have shortage of talented people. We need to move from 2,000 to 10,000 a month, average billing or something, to grow those numbers as a country. So I think that those are, you know, a couple of things. Other than that, I think everybody covered it well. I think one thing which advice for if they're Canadian people or of Pakistani origin or Pakistani Canadians, however you view yourself, good time to move back. I think salaries are, as many speakers mentioned, skyrocketing in Pakistan. If you ever thought of moving back, I think it's a huge need there of people who have experience. Again, you know, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years of experience. We just don't have those people. So, you know, time to consider moving back. I think that's how India really set up their industry. So I think more of us that can move back or spend more time there, that would be, I think that's a huge thing that we can do. That's it, Mr. Hassan. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan, for your valuable comments. Now we quickly move to Mr. Rahil Qureshi. When introduction, I have already introduced him, so please, Rahil, please take the mic.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you to the organizing committee. Look, lots of good information, and I want to take a little bit of a different angle and paint a little bit of a reality, right? So I myself, I operate a business which we do cloud, managed services, complete lift and shift, cybersecurity, end-to-end portfolio of services, managed services, integration services, number of other things, right? And recently we were acquired as well by a publicly traded company. So we went through that acquisition. As a result of it, I did start looking at Pakistan as an option. And here's what we need to think about. The demand is huge right now. There's a major talent shortage across the board. Every single company is trying to do very sophisticated techniques to do talent management and how they can retain talent, because positions have become global. Positions are no longer, because I can be very honest with you, in the past, every time I brought up the subject that I'm going to be using my resources in Pakistan, there was always this perception issue, right? That hurdle is less and less so important now because positions have become global. The biggest challenge that I'm seeing right now is that there are not enough use cases that companies in Pakistan really understand where things are moving towards with the data lakes and the cloud and the automation. And yes, development is still a huge topic. You need to have major development software houses, and you need to get into mobile, web, app, integration, everything else. But there's a massive need around architecture, data scientists, business intelligence, Azure, GCP, AWS certified resources. I personally feel that this is where we need to invest. That means we need to listen. And I believe there needs to be a mechanism where you say, give us all the unique use cases so we can start to prepare, and next 12 to 24 months, we can start to train people and bring that talent to the market. Number one. Number two, vendor of record. I think the biggest challenge is, yes, there are so many companies, and I learned so much today, to be frank with you. Like, I have now 40 people, and I have independent contractors and consultants that I've hired, and then I hired a manager there to manage it, and it's not easy. And if there is a framework of vendor records where you can say, based on your skills that you're looking for, based on your need, here are the type of services. So almost like a portal I can log into and say, here are different companies that fit this criteria. They are pre-authorized, approved to be providing services, and it's legit businesses. As a result of it, it makes things very easy to invite those companies to also come and bid on contracts. Right? This is a very important piece. If you take a look at the Canadian market, it's small to mid-sized businesses. Yes, they're the top big companies. And let's park them outside for a second. Majority of the businesses, small to mid-sized companies, they don't have the resources, and they're coming to service providers like us. And it's hard for us to manage and maintain those resources. That means, as a result of it, we would like to go ahead and look at that offshore model. So we have to think about those unique use cases, what they are. And I'll be frank with you, I am right now, I had to hire a recruiter, and they're even struggling because, oh, you're looking for this very unique Palo Alto. Well, Palo Alto is a very common firewall here. Every third company is deploying Palo Altos. we got to figure out a way then to train as many people as we can on Palo Alto and Palo Alto Prisma. And I'm using a unique example. Let's think more broadly of what a technology landscape consists of, not just on development and integration and mobile and app and everything else. So I just want to leave some thoughts there that we need to create some kind of collaboration hubs where you can say, listen, very important, you are willing to invest your time into this because you're going to benefit out of it. Give us the use cases, give us a skill matrix, give us everything else. Then somebody can take the lead from there on, and it's race to the market. And I understand everybody's in the business of making money, don't get me wrong. And then there's objectives at the country level to also have the broader export. But we need to talk, we need to listen. And yes, all those delegations and everything else is all good stuff. COVID has changed quite a bit of things, to be honest with you. I don't know how long it's going to stay like this. It will stay like this for a longer period of time. So we need to think about more unique, because market is extremely hot. So I call it, the iron is hot right now, is the time to strike. And we need to just change our thinking and mindset a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Raisa. I think we have reached the 90-minute time. So not too much time. We will not take too much time for the question answer, only 1 or 2 questions, and we will be trying to finish it within 10 minutes maximum. So the first, one of the questions which I got many questions, but obviously we cannot take all of them. Those one is KJ, the people wanted the email addresses of the presenters, so they can ask questions. If anyone is willing to share, they can write their email addresses. Otherwise, I have shared my email addresses. I have shared the Consulate email addresses, and they can address the queries to us, and we can always get the answers, replies from the presenters. और एक सवाल जो उन्होंने पूछा है कि do we have any information portal or authority who guides about legal and financial process to keep back office in Pakistan from Canada and US? So where people can get the information if anybody wants to open office in Pakistan? So PSEB can Salman Sahib, if he's there, or anyone from Pasha can Barkan Sahib, if he's there, he can answer that.
जी, आई थिंक अभी techdestination.pk है और PSCB की वेबसाइट्स हैं, उन पे इंफॉर्मेशन ओवर टाइम अपलोड हो जाएगी. अभी ऐसा कोई यूनिफाइड पोर्टल नहीं है या ऐसी कोई जगह नहीं है. इफ somebody wants to set up in special technology zone, तो उनकी वेबसाइट है, उस पर आप जा सकते हैं. और दूसरा, पाकिस्तान सॉफ्टवेयर एक्सपोर्ट बोर्ड में आप सलमान को आई थिंक कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं to learn about everything to basically open up a company here. बेसिकली यहाँ पे रेगुलेशंस जो हैं वो काफ़ी सारी हैं तो कंपनी खोलने के लिए. सो यू नीड टू बेसिकली sometimes we even after 12 years find out that there is something that we need to comply to, but most of the industry knows where do you need to register, and they will basically simply any existing CEO can guide you, or PSCB can guide you how to open a company or what process to follow here.
Okay, thank you.
Please. If I can add to this. So there are multiple types of companies, and for every company type, there is a different regulation and rules required. And as per the investors also, if you are going to invest as a Canadian, then it's a different regulation. And if you want to open up the company as a Pakistani national, then there are different regulations. So I'll advise, I have shared my email address also. So you can route these questions and queries to me, and PSCB would love to handle these queries and questions. Thank you.
Okay,
one more input on this. We have hired a tax consultant, and that tax consultant's job is to take exactly these questions. So you can send it to Salman, you can send it to Ali Hasni. Salman also send Ali Hasni's email address. You can send to Ali Hasni, you can send to Salman, and they can put you in touch with Sharifuddin Khilji Saab. He's our tax consultant and our corporate consultant as well. So he can help you structure your company right, so you would not have any issues going forward once you have done that. In addition, we are working on 2 documents. Salman has been working on 2 documents for the SMEDA. One is a pre-feasibility report of setting up a 100 seats call center in Pakistan, and another one is a 100% software company in Pakistan. Then we also, on the techdestination.com, you can also find the tax advisory. So we've established that too. And that's a great idea though, on step-by-step setting up a company, sort of a guide. All will work to deliver that too. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the last question, and which has been asked by many participants, that is this webinar a one-off event, or it will have some further steps? So I would request the participants, the audience, the speakers, to share the way forward, how we can build effective channels of communication between the Pakistani companies, either represented by Pasha or PSEB, and the Pakistani community in IT sector Canada. So how we can basically use this channel effectively? Any thoughts on that?
Definitely this channel, and there is another good thing is that Pakistan ICT Forum, so they are actually taking a delegation to Pakistan. If anyone wants to understand a bit more about Pakistan landscape, that will be a good thing. So people can connect Tafsiruddin, and it is actually hosted by PSEB. So that will be a good avenue also. And then I will be available for any further webinars, any questions, they can reach me. I just shared my email address. I am a phone call away. So happy to help.
If I may, I've been to Pakistan with many delegations over the last close to 2 decades. And what I'm finding it's missing a little bit is a collaboration between different entities from Pakistan and South Asia over here that we can bring together. For instance, all the visits that I made to Pakistan, and they were granted, they were more government focused, were from an organization known as CPBC. I guess you gentlemen may know about that. It's a business council put together by Canada and Pakistan. So there are some organizations like that. Open is another one, and good to see participation from Open over here, because they will give us information and input which will expand our horizon and will also help us in basically at least bringing the companies together that are doing business between Canada and Pakistan.
So Azhar Sahab, I would like to add the way forward what we have done with Australia already. So after having this introductory session, then we dive into the sector specific discussions. So what we do is that you, being a moderator and our representative in Canada and your CG, can help us identifying the companies who are interested to look in particular segment, and we arrange companies from Pakistan in that particular domain. So if you're looking for companies who are working in the cloud sector or cloud domain, so we'll identify the companies from Pakistan, we'll share their profiles with you. And all those who are interested based out of Canada working with the cloud companies, we do a batch packing session, which is going to be a B2B online session between both side companies who are interested to work on the cloud sector or fintech or whatever. So that's how we usually take this introduction session into further B2B sessions. So if you're interested, we are available. We'll help you out and we'll facilitate you.
That's great.
We shall surely take advantage of this offer, because we have been holding so many webinars, and we have been our colleagues from Pakistan have been making commitments, and then we have been following it up, and some of them have really resulted into concrete B2B meetings. And we are happy to share that Pakistan-Canada trade and Pakistani exports increased 32% in 2021. And we will surely take advantage of this offer. And Mr. Salman Hassan will have to work there for us. Okay.
ACB is always available, sir. Just a call away.
Thank you. And I just want to say my apologies to all those participants who asked questions, but because we are already short over time, so we cannot answer, we cannot take those questions, but we will be sending these questions to our participants and share the replies with the participants. And in the end, I would thank all the participants, all the panelists. I thank our Consulate Journal for sparing his time. I am thankful to Mr. Osman Nasir, Mr. Barkan Said, Mr. Hassan Naqvi, Dr. Shakil Ahmed Khoja, Mr. Kiwan Khaja, Mr. Jahan Ali, Rahil Qureshi, and Mr. Hassan Ahmed for spending your valuable time. I know everybody has been very, very busy, and I'm grateful that they took out time for this event. Thank you. Hope to see you in the next event. Allah Hafiz.
Okay, ji. Allah Hafiz.